Right, if we swap it up a bit, there is a team from the major I want to talk about, and crucially, they're actually playing a LAN right now, which is that it's Gambit, and they're actually at the V4 Future Sports Festival thing at the moment, which on paper they're supposed to win because it's like basically them big and then maybe Entropic, depending on how good you think they are. Right, this is a team, Lagia, that there's so many angles we can go with this. So I'll just go with I'll give you a big one, and then we'll dive into it, which is. People already, after IEM Cologne, if you remember, the first big LAN that we saw Gambit at, people already wanted to say, because they lost to FaZe in the quarterfinals, like, they're onliners, just obviously onliners, right? But if people remember, if you go back and look, actually stats-wise, they pretty much were all at the level you'd expect from online. It's just that FaZe, Carrigan had a great series, and they narrowly beat them. It wasn't like it was some, dog shit stomp or something. But after this major, and the way the semi-final went, because if you saw on the desk, we were all trying to make it, so it was exciting for you still. We weren't just saying, right, now he's going to stomp him 2-0, the Gambit guys are we had to build it if this goes anything like it was online, could be the best series. In fact, this could be the real final. I have to say, the actual result of what the semi-finals was really underwhelming. I thought it was kind of a bit shit, and it means, this is the question, people think for real the gear Gambit are onliners. They just couldn't ever summon the form that they had online. What do you think?
I think that's bullshit. I really think it's bullshit. Obviously, it takes a little bit more if you play on LAN, especially such a big stage, and we have to talk now. They've been dominating for 2 years, or they've been at the top for 2 years now, or 1.5 years. Been winning many tournaments, big tournaments online, and coming then to a LAN. It's obvious what's going to happen. Everyone will now question them. Are they going to be as good on LAN as they're online? So that's also a lot of pressure coming to them. I think they handled the situation very good. I don't even think they played bad. I think they played a good tournament. And talking about the game against Navi, I've experienced playing against Navi as a coach, and I know how good they are. And if they get a good day, you just don't win. You just don't win. And even if you lose 16-6, sometimes you can say, "Fuck, we played good," but it's just impossible. They are so good. They're right now so good that I don't think losing 2-0 in doesn't matter what fashion. That it's a shame and that you should consider them online or whatever. I think they play just as good on LAN like they do online, but there's obviously other factors coming in, such as pressure and setup and whatsoever. But I don't think they are at all onliners. I think they're a very good team, and I think in future they will win more tournaments. I think they need to make one change, and then they can become a very, very strong team.
Where are you on this one, Alan?
Yeah, in terms of kind of Gambit at the major and in general, in terms of since we've gone back to having more LANs, I think it's just, honestly, they're still such a young team outside of Hobbit. Even Hobbit isn't that old, let's be honest. And they've got a lot of growth to go in terms of that sense. And as Leggy is saying, when you play online, when you play in your bedroom or at your boot camp, every tournament kind of blends into the same thing, and you sort of forget what's going on, and you're just playing a bazillion matches, and nothing really feels different. And I can imagine for them, remember, it's been a long time since a major, and they have not played it as a lineup. When they come into that, the pressure's insane. And particularly, I actually thought, of course, the semis was bad. I actually thought the end of the Furia game on Inferno was probably the most kind of striking, where you could just see Gambit making very bizarre decisions. Their comms looked a bit all over the place. So that for me was actually more concerning than getting banged by Na'Vi, was when they're up against a team like Furia, who are not on their level, cannot play the same sort of strategic game that Gambit can, and Gambit can push them around so much if they're really working it. That was more concerning. So in terms of looking at Gambit as a bigger picture, I'm not in the boat at all of roster moves or thinking it's a good idea at the moment, because fundamentally, I think they play very good CS. I think they've got some incredible players. I think Shiro is, he's developed unbelievably well over the last year or so, as is Hobbit, in terms of becoming more of a leadership and father figure in the teams. So I wouldn't even think about a roster move. I think this is just growing pains, in my opinion, of them now transitioning to offline. And I as long as Gambit as an organization does the right things and reflects on these and, has good support staff, I don't see why they couldn't get back up to a minimum, let's say a top 4 level on LAN, top 3 level on LAN. Maybe beating Gambit is a bit of a stretch at the moment, but in terms of still being an elite level team, I think they could definitely do it. And I do think it probably will play out in that manner as we go through more LANs moving forwards.
If I can add also one more thing about that. You all have to also imagine, Gambit has been a top 3 team now for, let's say, for a year, okay? And in general, in Counter-Strike, let's say I'm coach of Big and other coaches as well, you obviously look what are they doing right to be a top 3 team. So many teams actually try to copy, watch demos.
Sure.
So you learn a lot about this team. So coming to an event, you also don't have the time to change all your game plan, change everything, restructure everything. You go with what had worked for you, but many people will know what you do. So it's going to be super hard also for this team, and many people will counter them. They will, just because they watched like for 1 year the whole time, how is Shiro playing? How is this guy getting so many frags? How are they beating or destroying all these teams? Let's see how they play. And then you copy from them. And once you copy, you play their style, and you know what is going to counter you when you play. So this plays also a lot into the cards, I think, for Gambit, that it's hard for them to play sometimes against other teams just because they are such a big team and many teams watch the games. It's the same for Na'Vi, but for Na'Vi, you will just not do anything if all the 3 players are hitting their shots and play at a decent level, even, I would say. It's just going to be hard for you.
Yeah, one of the key things for me about this result for Gambit is, like, I can see both sides of it, which is, if you look at just the online results and the fact that we all did try to convince ourselves as much as we could, like, online still matters, you know, like, these are still games of Counter-Strike, these are still the best teams, blah, blah, blah. The problem is, like, if you take that Gambit, look, they weren't as good at the major, of course they weren't, like, they weren't, all those genius rotations didn't come off like they did it on fucking LAN, they didn't make all those soul reads mid-round that they would if this was an online game, but at the same time, if I look realistically about what I know about Counter-Strike and competing, it's ridiculous you would even make the semi-final with a bunch of rookies and one player who has any experience. Remember, the rest of them have never played a fucking major. They're nobodies. Like, I know they are in the online world, but if we go back to 2 years ago before we all went online, like, they were nobody. They were just a bunch of fucking, you know, one day they might have been good was the premise for them. So if you ask, what should you do in your first major? To actually even make the semis is very good, by the way. Like, it's unlikely that would even happen. I always used to describe it like this. To me, competing is like a ladder. It's like, first of all, you have to get like good online, then you have to get good online in a big pressure match online, then you have to get good on LAN, any LAN, then you have to get good at tier 2 LANs and tier 1 LANs. By the way, when you go to tier 1 LANs, it's like there's another ladder within the ladder. The ladder for tier 1 LANs is like, can you even get out the group stage? That's hard for some people. Then, by the way, even your first game in a big arena like Lancers or something, that in itself, a quarterfinal's a massive game if you've never been there. So I think what people forgot is there are fucking levels to this shit. And there's a reason why, by the way. The best example ever is Device, right? So everyone would say now, this guy has like the best resume you could ever want in CSGO. Look at all the fucking majors, titles. This guy got banged out in all the major semis for years and years. Like, it took him literally until 2017 to make the final of a major. And we're looking at Gambit, right? 4 rookies and one guy who was like years ago a top player. And we're going, you should just be in the final, otherwise you fucked up. It's like, that's actually an unreasonable standard. Like, that is a bit fucked. So I do think they weren't as good as they were online. And I think some of that even makes sense, by the way. Like, the one thing that did trigger me about this major is the way Nafani, right up until they got banged out by Na'Vi, kept sort of trying to talk like LAN is the same as online. It's like, how the fuck would you know? How was that all those LANs? I didn't see you around there, mate. What, were you like, so maybe, unless you asked for your free autograph at one of those clones or something. What the fuck are you talking about? You don't know what a real LAN's like. You do now, by the way, which is, I noticed why the second they got banged out, it switched from like, I'll play this online to like, look, one thing you can't say is that we didn't make top 4 at this major. It's like, well, all right, that's nobody was arguing that, but that is a switch. That's a pivot, Nafani. That's about the best mid-round read you made in the whole fucking tournament. Too bad it was too late at that point. Because here's the problem, right? When they're on the internet and you have 3-star players, you have a super good passive AWP Shiro, and you have 2 amazing entries in Axile and Hobbit, mate, the strats just work twice as well. You've got all the pieces. So when you go to LAN, like 2 of those 3 names never showed up in that semi-final. Like, Shiro was way worse. He was just okay. And he didn't try, by the way. This is one thing I've always said about that guy. He didn't try to be a superstar and break the game. He just accepted, you know, this shot isn't hitting, I missed this one, just reposition on it. He never tried to be like a Zero or a Simple. And then the other guy for me is Axel. Like, the guy never showed up to the major, mate. If you watch the whole major, he just had, I don't know why, he just had a bad major. He didn't turn up to performance. So if you're Nafani, this is why you also don't make big comments like that. That's like going into a game and like one of your strikers is injured and then the other one can like play, but like secretly he's injured. Like, yeah, the team's going to be way worse on offense, aren't they? Like, you can't do any of the set pieces you do if you haven't got the players that supposed to be good. So to me, I think this is just like, it's a learning lesson for Gambit. I would keep their core together. It looks fantastic. It could be amazing. Even at the next major, it's probably soon enough. Like, they'll have more LAN experience. But I do also think it was like, they did need this wake-up call. Like, there's a reason why, like, here, back in the day, we used to literally say to pro players who've never been to the big LANs, like, welcome to LAN, bitch. Like, it's a different world, isn't it? Like, if you're a veteran, you even know you can use that against the guy when he's better than you, but you've never been on the LANs, right?
I felt it on Game Gear on my first LAN too. It's different, man. It's different, man. You sit in front of your opponents, you can look them in the eyes. Also, just going to the veto, standing in front of your opponent already gives you a fucking heartbeat. Is going up and everything. It's just different, but it all comes to the end. In the end, how can you deal with these situations? So, I think give them a couple more tournaments, and they will actually show the world again who they are. Their system is just so fucking good, no joke. They play so smart Counter-Strike, and it's so well played together, everything. It's just like, it's like I don't know, it's like a perfect clockwork, I would say.
Yes.
It's like everything is going perfectly fine when their game is going well. But it's the same for us back then, when I recall like how we played, for example, in Big. If those things don't work, it's gonna be hard, and people need to adapt. And as you said, for example, Shiro did not adapt. Sometimes as an OPA, you have to take the game in your hands, fuck everything else, fuck game plan, fuck everything.
Yes.
I'm just going to have to win this game. And you have to be as smart enough, if you're the best OPA or one of the best OPAs in the world, to take over these games. So I think that's where probably experience comes in then. So,
Do you have any thoughts, Alan?
Not really, just resonate with what you're saying, I guess, in terms of just growing pains, and it's going to move forward. I guess Axile is the one player you look at and you say, where's the form gone? Why have you changed your play style? You seem to me to be playing all the same spots, a lot of the same roles, and for some reason he's not performing the same as he was 6 to 8 months ago. So there is a player to put a bit of a spotlight on, maybe him, but I certainly agree with what Leggy is saying in terms of their system, in terms of how they play. The thing with Gambit is it's like the small things and the little plays, the little pieces of team play between two players are literally unreal. And you'd be amazed by the amount of like pro teams that just have literally 20 rounds called Gambit or small moves called Naphany or Inters. Like the amount of things like people lift from a team like Gambit is insane. So that's why I'm kind of hammering here that they can still play insane CS, and I would expect them to get a lot better as LANs continue.
Oh, I'll give you one other quick angle as well, because I noticed when Simple did that HLTV podcast the other day, one thing he said there that I thought was very telling was he said that there were even times when they would practice and he would sort of turn to Blade and be like, can you just call? Because Boomich is like doing bad calls in this practice. And Blade would sometimes say to him, like, yeah, but he's got to learn, so we've got to let him do it basically in some of these games. Like, that's one thing I wonder if they made the rookie mistake, which was when you're online, and Groove or Finn or whoever it is who works with them in terms of the coaching staff, if they're with you online, they can just talk whenever they want. So that can also make those calls even better. Like, you've got another set of eyes, you've got a veteran player. So I wonder how much, like, because here's the thing, when you're online, in theory, that's the correct play. You're trying to win the online tournament. You're not trying to be best on LAN. But actually, to be the best on LAN, to some degree, you should also, like, learn that discipline of, like, it's only going to be unified. It's you and the timeout. That's all you're going to have on LAN, mate. There's not going to be a guy, like, just randomly giving you a comment, like, to try this next round. Oh, what about this? Like, watch the money. Like, you have to, that's why, in my opinion, the cool thing about I Am Cologne a few months ago is it just ended up being like a fucking advert for why real in-game leaders are super sick on LAN. Because basically, like, Glaive and Carrigan probably had no business being in the semis, but they just showed you what, like, a sick, super experienced in-game leader does when you're on LAN. Like, they can just do all this shit, whereas the other guy's losing his mind, wondering why it's not the same as the online game. So I think Gambit's going to be fine. I understand why people are upset at the same time, but it's also not totally their fault. Like, part of the reason we're all upset as well is we just wanted someone to give Na'Vi an epic game, which didn't really happen until the final. And even then, I'm just going to say it because I'm like this. I also think part of why the final was so exciting is just because I think Na'Vi sort of got in their own heads a little bit and thought, like, fuck, I can't believe I don't really know if G2 actually was beating them in the game. Like, some of those rounds, like once Na'Vi actually woke up, no one could stop them, mate. Like, as soon as Simple on both maps actually woke up, he just started doing, like, Neo from the Matrix shit where he just winning every round. Like, basically, there was only that round where Nico missed the Deagle kill. That was about the only time Deagle had even done anything. And by the way, spoiler, That's why the Deagle will never be a truly accurate gun. If even Nico can fucking miss every now and then, no one can hit that gun. By the way, that's almost karma as well. I've seen him hit about 10,000 fucking Deagle headshots that should never have landed. So yeah, guess what? Eventually, fucking Faust's bargain has to be paid, Nico. And in the major final, when the guy was just sitting there, yeah, you get CSGO'd. We all get CSGO'd eventually, mate. We all get CSGO'd.
Already said he missed the shot, but what's worse even is how fucking fast it simply kill him.
Oh,
I
know.
It's just
that's
so
what
crazy.
no one gave credit to.
So
yeah, dude,
crazy.
he just did like a 90-degree flick and shot him with the Orbiter. In that scenario, anyone else would still miss. You get a second crack at it, don't you? You get the reset. I know. It's unfair, isn't it? It's just unfair. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.